Oh no, we're live already. Are we? No, we're not. Wait. Okay. Hello everybody and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet, and all right, I'm sitting here together with my friend David Winnie.
Hey, you know what's dumb?
What?
Whenever there's like the theme of a show, but it doesn't have words, like my brain automatically starts like just completely stupid words.
Me too. Yeah.
Like, what would the words be? So like as that's going, I'm thinking like A P and D Wood, right? And so like stupid stuff like that will come out. But I like my brain, like Star Trek theme, all that stuff. It's like
I think that's actually perfect. We could
very
actually
lame words.
we could make up these lame words to introduce these live streams, and you could recite them like the Quran, and we could add that
to work.
the
And then once we have it and we like chant it or sing it, then that'll be more powerful than the arguments for the the Muslim crowd.
That's true.
Because that makes it powerful.
That's true, man. That's totally true. True words have never been spoken. And yeah. So how you doing, Davey?
Hey, how are you doing?
Oh, good, innit?
What's up? You were sounding Australian, but then you start saying in it.
Doing all right, innit?
Hey. I'll send some Canadian, get everyone in there.
Yeah. So what do you think about the recent Quran burning? I thought we should start with, since we have a responsibility in front of an audience that frequently talks and thinks about Islam day and night, I thought we should take responsibility here and vehemently condemn the burning of the Quran and anything related to it. What do you have to say, David?
Yeah, with me, it's always mainly about the lies and the hypocrisy, right? Because I mean, I've never been a fan of book burning. I think it's a lame form of criticism. With that said, when someone starts announcing, "Hey, we're going to slaughter you if you do this," then it's almost like you have to do it, right? Because when they say, "Hey, we're going to kill you if you do this," and then you don't do it, it's like you're announcing to them, "Oh, if you want to get your way, just always threaten violence or start killing people." And that's a dangerous message. So it kind of has to be a rule. Anytime anyone say, "Hey, we'll slaughter you if you say this," or "We'll slaughter you if you criticize this," then it's like, okay, I wasn't going to, but now I have to. That sort of thing. But so that's as far as on kind of on our side of the issue. But it's on the Islamic side where it's always lies and hypocrisy after these things. One, it's like, we would never do that. You've been doing that stuff for 14 centuries. I mean, Robert and I just talked the other day about in his book, The History of Jihad, when Muslims would conquer a Hindu temple, take the idols out, they'd smash them and put them on the ground on the walkway into the place. Then they convert it into a mosque. But they'd crush their idols so that they could, and then put them on the ground so that they could trample on the idols every time they walk into a mosque. So every time you walk into the mosque, you are literally walking across the idols of other people. Then you have things like taking the Kaaba. What does Muhammad do? He takes the Kaaba, he goes around stabbing and smashing the idols around the Kaaba. Very well. That's not nice. But notice, even taking the Kaaba, that was a pagan shrine. You say, well, we believe it was Abraham. Okay, do you believe, Hagia Sophia was a right? And that was, you can't say, I hope you don't think Abraham built that, right? So this is just indisputably a Christian place, and you go and take it, and you don't care whose feelings you hurt. So anyway, the point is, you got Muhammad insulting people's religions, stabbing their idols, and so on. Suddenly, if someone like burns a Quran or insults Muhammad, we hear this chorus of, but we would never do anything to offend anyone else's religion. We would never hurt anyone else's feelings.
Never, ever. No.
Never, ever, ever. And it's like, what planet are you from? Where have you been for the past 14 centuries? In fact, I had a guy on Twitter just the other day when I mentioned, what did I mention? Did I mention the Quran burning or something? I forget. But he said, but I said, hey, you should reply in this situation that Muhammad went around stabbing the idols. And I put the hadith on the screen in English and Arabic. And his response was, the Muslim's response was, but they had persecuted Muslims. They had persecuted Muslims. So it was okay to insult their religion in return by degrading their idols and so on. And but notice that one, I mean, how bad was the persecution against Muhammad really? I mean, he lasted 12 years making fun, mocking the religious beliefs and the ancestors of the pagans of Mecca, and still walked out with his life. I don't think I'd last 12 years criticizing and mocking the religious beliefs of the people of Mecca if I were there today. Yeah. So notice the situation, notice the hypocrisy, right? The Muslims of Mecca today are far, 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 far more intolerant than the pagans of Mecca in the 7th century. And yet, so Muhammad leaves, but because he had been persecuted, they had said some mean things and so on. But because he had been persecuted, then it was acceptable to insult their gods and goddesses by, smashing them and so on, stabbing them in the eyes as he did. But notice, if you really believe that, and this is how I responded to the guy, I said, okay, so following your reasoning, the pagans of Mecca persecuted Muhammad, therefore it was acceptable for Muhammad and his followers to insult their religion in return. So what that means is Muslims have persecuted Christians, Jews, Hindus, atheists, Buddhists, go down the line, Yazidis, everyone. Therefore, what is the correct response? And the only other response I got was, well, but he's a prophet, so blah, blah, blah. And then people had already responded, wait a minute, he's the moral example in your religion. He's the pattern of conduct. So if anyway, the point here for everyone who's watching, Muslims who are watching, your prophet is the pattern of conduct. What is the pattern of conduct laid down by your prophet? If you don't like someone's religion, you can mock it, you can smash their idols and so on. Okay, that's your pattern of conduct. Great. You don't get to tell us that we need to have the utmost respect for your book and your prophet. If the example set by your prophet himself is that when you don't agree with someone, you can just mock and insult their religion all you want. So be consistent for once. I know it's not part of your religion, but it's important to the rest of us.
Yep, have some consistency, bro. Yeah, but my thoughts are very simple. I don't know what you're talking about. I love burning books, and the Quran.
That's it. That's because you spend so much time in Germany.
Yeah, probably. No, I mean, to be serious for a second, when we talk about burning books, and when some of us celebrate the burning of a specific book, some people come out and say, hey, I can absolutely not support the burning of books. The Nazis burned books. And I just want to sit down and I just want to say very, very nicely and kindly, hey, I understand where you're coming from. I completely understand that objection and that reflex that you have to burning a book, but those two are not the same things. Mm-hmm. So what's problematic about Nazis burning books is not the act of setting a book on fire. It's not the lighting of a fire and putting the book into that fire. That's not the problem. The fire is not the issue. The problem is the context, the intention behind burning a book. Nazis and other authoritarian groups have burned books in order to condemn and suppress their contents and to oppress populations into following their own ideologies and not deviating from them. And people who disagreed with them were brutally suppressed, and their books and opinions were annihilated. That's what burning books in that context means. In our context, we are not doing the same thing. I would love to give everybody in the world a copy of the Quran and say, hey, read this book, find out what kind of stuff it says, and then let's talk about it. I'm not at all for suppressing the contents of the Quran or the ideas therein. I'm just for protesting those contents in order to protest oppression. So therefore, burning a Quran in protest and burning books of ideas that you don't agree with is not the same thing at all. I think there is nothing valuable about burning a book. There is nothing to condemn about burning a book. But in this case, burning a Quran or desecrating a Quran is an act of protest in response to atrocities, oppressions that come from Islam that originate with the Quran. Insofar, it is completely all right to burn a Quran, in my opinion, or to do anything else with it. And when Muslims then respond to that with violence, with violent protests, with threats, with killing people and burning things down, that just makes it all worse. That just makes me and others want to burn more Qurans. And no matter how far you want to go to defend your Quran, to us it is only a book, and a book that doesn't say very good things. We would like to protest that. But since Muslims are so many Muslims are so angry about this, earlier today I was thinking, hey, I have an idea. I came up with a new moral problem, and I bet many people here are familiar with the trolley problems, where you have to figure out which option is the morally right one. So I came up with a trolley problem too.
Hang on. Break down the trolley problems a little bit more for people. The trolley problems
Okay,
have
you go ahead. You go
yeah,
ahead.
the trolley problems, there are variations, but they have kind of two main purposes. One is to assess moral theories, to evaluate the actions of a person in light of moral theories. And the other is to test people for psychopathic traits, right? Because
Yeah.
like the variations of it, like, hey, if you had to push someone off the train in order to stop it from hitting someone else or something like that, do you do that? And apparently psychopaths have no problems. Yeah, push them off to things like that. But yeah, it's normally used to evaluate moral theory. So it would be questions like, suppose your train is going down the line, and it's about to run into 4 people. It's going to kill 4 people if it stays on its current course. You can pull a lever which will switch the track, but then it's going to kill one person. It's going to kill one person. So what do you do in that situation? And you might think, it's easy. I just pull the lever because then it's only going to be killing one person. But yeah, but that's going to kill a person who wasn't going to be killed. That person wasn't going to be killed. So you are then responsible for killing that person, but responsible for saving the other 4. And so anyway, you get into situations like that.
Yeah. So thinking about this problem earlier, when I was, I guess I was in a very interesting place where a lot of very interesting thoughts emerge. I was taking a shower. That's where all the interesting stuff always comes to one's mind. So I thought, hey, wait a minute. Since Muslims have such a strong reaction to desecrating the Quran, I should also make it change the trolley problem. So I came up with this. And I thought this would be a perfect trolley problem to present to Muslims and to ask them, what would you do? You see that you are here, you see a train approaching, and there are 5 people tied down on on one rail, and you have the trolley, and you can change the direction so that the train avoids killing those 5 people and runs over the Holy Quran instead. would you do it? What would you do? This is what I came up with. Of course, later I thought, wait a minute, this could be even harder if you change the places here and put the Quran here so that the train goes toward the train toward the Quran by default. But you can change it and make it go toward 5 people. Would you do it as a Muslim or not? And this is a very difficult moral problem, which I think should be introduced to schools and mosques and all of that. And what do you think, David?
Yeah, quick, because Abdullah Samir over here, friendly ex-Muslim, said, harder question, 1 Muslim or 5 disbelievers, right? So you could do, AP, you could do a video just titled The Trolley Problem for Dawa, for Dawa Gang or something like that, right? Where you introduce what the trolley problem is and then give them a bunch of examples, because some of you may be watching and you may be thinking, oh, come on, no one's gonna do that. No one's gonna care about a Quran when lives are at stake. No, wrong. You have not been paying attention. There are guys who believe that murder is better. This is not us making this up. They actually say wishing someone Merry Christmas is worse than murdering them, right? Worse than murder. And the idea is because you've done something that insults Islam, that's way worse than actually slaughtering people. So this would actually be a good problem for them. And I think you'd have Muslims on both sides of the issue. You'd have Muslims go, no, come on, you got to save lives. You don't need the Quran. Really, you don't need another copy of the Quran. But
and there are some very few reasonable people who would actually respond with the Quran. I mean, the book is only a copy of the Quran. It is not as important as actual humans who could be saved in this case. The Quran would not, disappear. It is still there. This is just a copy. So they would just, let the book be run over by a train. But a lot of people, some of them responded to me as well when I didn't post this. I brought up a different thing. I posted on Twitter that one human life is better than a million Qurans. And some Muslims, of course, respond with, how dare you? How dare you? One Quran is better than a million lives like yours and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think some people might think this is very obvious and very easy, but I think this is a big, difficult, and important question in our time. So yeah. I should probably go out. Maybe you and I should go out and ask people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could walk around. You could hold up a sign. We could hold up a sign and go around and ask various people in situations and get record their responses and so on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, if you really, really think about it, you have just encapsulated everything that's going on in the world right now. Right? I mean, between Islam and the West, right? It's 2 very different perspectives on this that lead to very different perspectives on everything else.
Yeah. To me, it's no question. I would save the book and let the 5 people here die.
You got to save the book, man.
Yeah. But anyone else, I don't know. But anyway, enough about this.
Right, you got to save the book, because what else is Tate gonna not read in prison?
Yeah. Carry with him to flash the
camera.
camera.
Carry but not read, because books are for losers.
Books are stupid. Books are for losers. His words. All right, then. With that out of the way, with these shenanigans out of the way, we want to come back to our actual topic, David, and come back to the video that we analyzed last week. We went through half of it. And the question in that video was, the video's claim is that this is the strangest proof that the Quran is from Allah. Now, the first point that was made was that who authored the Quran? The first point was Muhammad himself wrote it, and we basically went through that and very much debunked it. The second point is the Prophet used previous scriptures. Wait, let me put this on the screen here so that we don't miss out on what's actually going on there. Yeah, the first point was the Prophet himself wrote the Quran. The second one was the Prophet used previous books. The third was he used someone else's help. And 4 was Satan helped the Prophet write it. This video says these are all nonsensical and there is no other possibility. So definitely it was written or it was authored by the Quran. Last week we went through the number 1 and debunked it to its core, and that was already more than half of the video. And now we want to come to the rest. So
let me summarize the core logical problem with this for anyone who.
You have 10 seconds.
For anyone who may have missed it last time. But we pointed out, see, there are informal fallacies like false dilemma and false dichotomy. Some people use those interchangeably. Some people make distinctions between them. This applies to this and this applies more to that. But there are two main issues that these informal fallacies are meant to address. One is pretending that you have supplied all the options. That's one, right? So if you say, hey, here are the possibilities, 1, 2, 3, or 4, but there are actually more possibilities, you've got a problem. Your argument fails because you pretended that these are all the options, and they aren't all the options. So last time we talked about how he's done this. All of his options are either it's from Allah or Muhammad came up with it himself somehow. And so we pointed out that there are other options, namely that someone else made it, right? Someone else made the book, because there are people who believe that Muhammad didn't exist, or that everything was exaggerated about him, or that he simply used this other book that other people came up with. So the point was there are other possibilities here. So that's one problem. The other problem is treating options like as if they're mutually exclusive when they're not. Mm-hmm. In other words, you even if you had completely exhausted the options, it's this, or this, and then you refute the ones you don't want by saying, it couldn't be this, but you're treating it as if it's mutually exclusive. It can't be true while another one is being true. That's another problem. So this guy's actually doing both. He's pretending that these are the only options when they're not. And he's pretending that these are mutually exclusive when they're not. In other words, if it's not this and not this and not this, then it's this. Or if it's not any one of these, then it must be the other thing. And these are not mutually exclusive. Could Muhammad have wrote the Quran himself and used previous books and used someone else's help and been inspired for parts by Satan? Yes, those could all be true. Those could all be true. So massive problems. My goodness, I don't even. Here's the thing, AP. Here's the thing. If I were to make, and this really sums up like a problem with dawah. If I were to make an argument like this with the Bible, I would get messages from other Christians pointing out the problems, right? They're inspiring philosophy would be sending me messages. Anthony Rogers, Vocab, John McCrae, they'd all be sending me messages going, man, you just made a terrible argument. Stop that. In Islam,
I would say, David, I don't know you anymore. Please, let's do not contact me anymore. That's what I would say.
And I don't know. I can't speak for everyone else, but there are lots of different ideologies and stuff out there where if you're arguing for something, then the emphasis is on whether it's a good argument, not whether it's supporting our position. In fact, in philosophy, that's all you do. You can present a paper defending an argument, and even people who agree with your conclusion, if there's a weakness in your paper, they will attack you mercilessly, right? Because they're trying to get to the idea of a good argument for that position. Whereas we talked about this before. Whereas in Islam, for some reason, the only criterion is your argument defending Muhammad or the Quran? If it is, we do not care. It could be this stupid, it could be absolutely filled to the brim with logical fallacies and false claims. It doesn't matter as long as it's supporting Islam. It's a great, brilliant argument.
Yeah. Are you done? So I just
that's a summary. That's a summary for people who weren't there last time.
Yeah, I just got alerts. I was just looking at news about apparently something with Iran drone attack on Iran ammunition factory. I don't know. Yeah.
What? Who did
nothing. It? I don't know.
Mossad did
Iran
it.
thwarts drone attack on military site, announces threats, stuff like that. I don't know. But nothing.
Wait, Iran did it, or someone did it to Iran? What are you saying?
Someone did it to Iran, apparently. Yeah, but nothing big happening at the moment. Just these reports, nothing announced. But yeah. No,
They thwarted a
they
drone attack on
thwarted
a
it. They
military site.
thwarted it. Yeah, they thwarted it. All right, let's go. Let's go here. We want to continue with this video here.
It's cracking me up when people are posting, "You see."
You see?
When I just started saying that to make fun of, "You see."
Yeah, I know. It's
It'd be
awesome.
funny if it becoming a catchphrase.
Wait, I think I didn't share this properly here. Share,
Wow.
present, entire
Amateur
screen,
show. Amateur
audio.
show. I don't know why
Okay,
people tune in.
Here.
But could it be that he used the help of others? Well, then let's look at possibility number 2. The prophet used previous books like the Bible or the Torah to write the Quran. And this possibility could easily be refuted because the prophet was illiterate. Which
Oh my gosh.
Easily be refuted. This is I don't know. I want to say this is the dumbest thing he said, but every single point he's made so far is like beyond stupid.
Go ahead. What do you want to say?
You want me to point out the stupidity of this? Okay.
I mean, I have several things on my mind, but go ahead.
Yeah. So Muhammad could not use the previous books, so the Torah and the Gospel and all the various books. Keep in mind, he used all sorts of like these heretical Gospels or non-canonical sources and so on that were written centuries after the events, but also, the romance legends of Alexander and so on. So he's using all this stuff. Now, when we say Muhammad's using these previous books, when he's plagiarizing these previous books, is anyone saying Muhammad's sitting there in his tent, oh, I'm going to steal that one? No, this is an oral culture. People pass around stories. That's what they do for entertainment. They sit around sharing stories. And matter of fact, we're familiar with this. Like, I've never read Moby Dick, but I could tell you that I could give you the basic gist of the story about Ahab going after this giant whale.
Yeah,
I could give you the gist of the story. And imagine I wrote a book. And I'm giving this story, and someone says, "Hey, you plagiarized that from Moby Dick," and I go, "What? I can't. I've never read that."
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean I don't know the story. In fact, when I was way back when I was locked up, they would have like movie nights where people go and sit and watch a movie, and one of my bunkmates would inevitably come back if it was a really awesome movie and he was excited about it. Would come back and tell me the entire story. So a guy sits, a guy with the bunk beside me, or over a guy who's got the top bunk, come and sit here and tell me the entire movie. I knew the entire story of The Matrix before I ever saw it. I knew the entire movie Happy Gilmore before I ever saw it. Knew the entire story by hearing someone tell me that. And so this right here, Muhammad couldn't have used the previous books. He was illiterate. Therefore, he had no access to them. Guess what? The vast majority of the populations back then were illiterate. And yet people knew what the stories were. So how does he explain it? Were they all inspired? Does everyone who is illiterate and is telling a Bible story have to be inspired by God?
Yeah, same thing with me. Like when I didn't watch the Matrix movies for most of my life, but I knew how everybody loves the Matrix movies and thinks it's like the best, the smartest thing in the world. And I tried watching it in the past and fell asleep halfway through it because I thought it's so boring and so
The
dumb.
Matrix?
Yeah, and
Well, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I'm about to jump through the screen and.
But but I knew very much the idea behind it and the philosophy behind it and everything. And in the end, I decided just a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I decided, come on, okay, I'm gonna put my arrogance aside here and just sit down and give it a chance. And then I watched it, and everything that I saw in the movie basically confirmed everything I knew and heard before. And in the end, I still thought this is like one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. There's nothing intelligent about it. But I knew the context, right? So that's the point of it. I don't want to discuss my opinion about Matrix. I know I'm right.
By the way, just a very minor point that most people don't know about that. The dumbest thing, the core really stupid thing about that movie was that the robots were using human beings as a power source. They're using them as batteries. Well, that's incredibly stupid. The human body is incredibly inefficient for energy purposes. The original was the original plan was going to be that the machines were using human brains as part of neural networks because they are extremely good circuitry in brains, and that's brilliant, right? Like that would avoid the main stupid thing in the movie, and yet for some reason they decided to go with battery instead of human brains as parts of neural networks.
Yeah, it's also very dorky and all that. Anyway, but yeah, so nobody, when we say that the Quran contains stories that are stolen from different religions and from folk myths and things like that, nobody actually thinks that Muhammad read all those books and wrote down whatever he wanted to write down. First off, Muhammad didn't write down the Quran according to Islamic tradition itself. Muhammad heard things. Muhammad recited the Quran from what he heard from Allah, supposedly. But so my argument would be, what I consider likely would be that Muhammad had people around him who gave him information, or people around him spoke things to him, or he throughout his life heard stories from others, from Jews and Christians. I mean, Muslims themselves even admit that even say proudly that one of the first people who were there when Muhammad received his prophethood was a convert to Christianity, who was learning about Christianity and who was telling him about God. So, it is entirely reasonable that Muhammad possibly heard everything from others and then just, changed it up and put it into what has become the Quran. And aside from that, we also don't actually have any demonstrable proof that Muhammad was illiterate. I mean,
the Muslim sources are actually inconsistent on that. There are other passages that make it sound like he could write.
Yeah, so you can't debunk a point by bringing up that as absolute proof, as absolute refutation, when you cannot even prove that point itself. If you cannot prove that Muhammad was definitely illiterate, then you cannot use that in order to refute the idea that Muhammad, read those books and thereby wrote the Quran. So none of these points holds any weight at all. It is simply ridiculous, and this is just the beginning.
Hey, well, 1 second. Let's address someone. Someone over here wants attention. Nicole, she said, "What language did Jesus speak?" Well, Nicole, that would have been Aramaic, certainly, but most likely Greek, because Alexander the Great had spread Greek across the empire. You had Israel was a Roman occupied area, and they were going to be speaking Greek to people. And when they gave you orders, you'd better be able to respond very quickly. So definitely Aramaic, maybe some Hebrew as well, but also very most likely Greek. Now, what's your point? Let's go ahead and give Nicole a quick opportunity.
Somebody give her the microphone, please. Somebody hand.
Or we could go on and keep coming back to Nicole.
We'll go on and we'll come back. Yeah, we'll come back for you, Nicole.
It means that he could not read or write. And even if we assume that he was not illiterate, where would he have got hold of the Bible or the Torah in Arabic? Did you know that the first Arabic translation of the Bible was made in the 9th century?
What in the world does that matter? I mean, we just basically went through the basic idea, but it doesn't matter whether there was an Arabic copy of the entire Bible in that time or not. I don't even want to fact check this because it is entirely irrelevant. What matters here is that Muhammad hears it from others, or Muhammad gets help from it. Muhammad is called the ear by the disbelievers in his time because he believes whatever people tell him. People accuse him all the time of taking stories from others. According to the Quran itself, this is not something that we are saying. The Quran itself says that they accuse him of taking those stories from others, of hearing things and believing everything, and so on. So he doesn't have to read a Bible or an Arabic Bible in order to get the ideas. He just hears things and he adopts them, and thereby not only adopts biblical stories but also folk myths in his time as if they were true, or as if they were fitting into Abrahamic religion.
Yeah, and notice because This is what's crazy. This guy will just give a quick response, treat it as decisive, and anyone who's thinking critically, all sorts of problems will start to arise. So Muhammad's cousin and the cousin of his wife, because they're all cousins, was Waraka, who, according to Muslim sources, was translating the Bible. It was translating the Bible into Arabic. So that's problem number one. Yeah, but the main problem is just it's an oral culture. I mean, keep in mind, Muhammad was a caravan trader. He's he's traveling and he's meeting lots of people. And you have Christians and Jews in Arabia. So the idea that there's no way to know what's in the Bible, it's just a great mystery. There's no way for anyone to know this. It's just, I mean, really? That's what you're going with to prove the Quran?
It's a perfect point. Yeah.
Which is 100 years after the death of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Then how could he have read it? Added to that, and until around the 18th century, the church was essentially hiding the Bible from common people and forbade its translation. So the Bible was not just readily available, let alone a translation thereof.
This is so stupid that his entire refutation of the idea that the Prophet Muhammad used previous books consists all of Muhammad not being able to read an Arabic written Bible, which is totally irrelevant to our point if we are arguing that Muhammad simply used previous biblical content which he heard.
And what did he just say? The church was hiding the Bible?
Yeah.
What an idiot.
What he means to say is that
I know what he means, but that is the way he said it is completely insane and idiotic.
Yeah.
This leaves us with no other conclusion than
no other conclusion. He keeps doing this.
Wow.
Let me give you some completely ridiculous.
This is not how logic works, man.
No, let me give you some. Let me pretend these are the only options, and let me give absolutely terrible refutations of these options and ignore everything that people are actually claiming about this. And then you see there's no other option. Terrible. But this is welcome to Dawah, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Dawah.
This is Islamic logic.
I refuted it. Muhammad couldn't have access to the previous books. You know what's insane about this? I mean, even in the Quran, Surah 1094, Allah orders Muhammad, if you're having doubts about what we've revealed, ask those who read the book before you. Wait a minute. How would they have the book? They can't. No one has access. How can you ask them? No one has access to the entire Bible anywhere that Muhammad had access. Like, wait, why is Allah telling you to go check with the people who've got the book? Notice that it's almost like he's got these people on speed dial, right? Like, hey, I know it's easy. I could just go ask someone. It's no problem. It's no problem. It's very easy for me to access what's in the earlier scriptures. Allah thinks it's very easy. Our Muslim friend here thinks it's completely impossible.
Here's the Quran verse. Quran chapter 10, verse 94 says in its English translation, so if you are in doubt about that which we have revealed to you, then ask those who have been reading the scripture before you.
Impossible.
Certainly come.
No one had the scripture. They were hiding it.
So according to the Quran itself, Allah was telling Muhammad to go to the Christians and Jews and to ask them if he has any doubts about the things that Allah is revealing to him. And this genius here who is making a video on YouTube to refute us is basically saying there was no way for Muhammad to get the information from anywhere else because he couldn't read, therefore impossible, therefore it must be from Allah. So yeah.
Can you imagine if this guy had been around during the time of Muhammad? Allah says, Muhammad, go ask the people who know about the book. Ask them what's up with the book. You know, you know who they are. They share stories with you. Go ask them. This guy would have been like, impossible. Impossible. It's impossible. It hasn't been translated. No, Muhammad has no access to the books. It's impossible. It's like, my goodness. That's the point. They'll even, in the course of trying to defend Islam, they'll even contradict their own God in their own books. Very interesting stuff.
Allah, what are you talking about? The Prophet cannot read. He cannot read Arabic. Stop it, Allah. What is this?
Not have used the previous books to write the Quran. This possibility is off the table.
Off the table.
It's
impossible.
Allahu Akbar. This is
it's impossible.
It's true. Impossible.
You ready to convert?
Yeah.
Possibility number 3. If the Prophet
Islam is so strong. You see this, man? Wow.
Prophet didn't write the Quran himself. He didn't read previous books. Was it then a Jew or a Christian that helped the Prophet write the Quran?
I already have the answer. It is impossible. Therefore, Islam is true. But let's see.
If we sift through all the authenticated hadith, you will only find a single hadith about the encounter between the Prophet and someone called Waraqa ibn Nawfal, a Christian. However, the Prophet met Waraqa ibn Nawfal after the wahi or the revelation came to him, not before. Furthermore,
Bull.
We
Crying
don't.
bull.
Yeah, go.
I think you're going to say we don't know. That's what I'm going to say. You cannot rule that out, because
There's no possibility that you can actually prove that.
Yeah. So notice, Waraka's in Mecca, Muhammad's in Mecca. They're actually cousins. I think twice removed. I think first cousins twice removed or something like that. But they're all three of these are cousins. So Khadija is cousins with Waraka, and Muhammad's cousins with both of them. They're all related. But even in the hadith about Muhammad receiving his revelation, when Khadija's trying to console him, she says, but you keep up good relations with your family members. And she says, with your kith and kin. Well, wait a minute. If Waraka is his first cousin twice removed, and Waraka's cousins with Khadija, and Khadija's saying, you're one of the great things about you, Muhammad, is that you're always close with all your relatives. This guy's saying, yeah, in Mecca, Muhammad never met this guy. Muhammad never met his cousin in the same city where matter of fact, tiny little town, more like it, tiny little village almost. Muhammad never met his cousin in this tiny little village. And
you are completely wrong, David. You're completely wrong. Mecca was an extremely important place. As Muslims tell us, it was basically like meeting somebody in New York City. That's basically how it was. So,
yeah. Something like that. But notice, because we're jumping on this, but he keeps doing the same thing, right? He just says something. He says something, whereas we're sitting there looking at thinking, oh, we can think of all kinds of problems with that. Or, hey, what you're saying is possible. It's possible he never ran into Waraka. I don't know. But the fact that you're just going to claim it, he never met him until afterwards, we would need some very good evidence for that. You have provided none except you saying it, and everything you say is false. So this wow. Dawa, baby, dawa.
That's insane. Also, is his point here that Waraka is the only person in question who could possibly have told Muhammad all the things that he could know about the Bible? Because it doesn't make any sense. I mean, this guy just said that the only person in question would be Waraka, whom he met after he received the revelation. First off, even if that were true, that wouldn't mean anything, considering that most of the details about Abrahamic scripture, which came into the Quran, came long after the first revelation. But secondly, Waraka is not the only person. We have many sources in which
he literally had a sex slave who was a Coptic Christian. Right?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
There's nowhere for him to get stories from his Coptic Christian sex slave.
According to the Quran itself,
he couldn't have said anything.
According to the Quran itself, there was a guy in town that he would get information from, and that people accused him of taking the contents of the Quran from. And the Quran is actually trying to refute that by saying, "But that guy speaks a different language."
Oh, so yeah. Matter of fact, we should pull up a couple of these verses since they're important. But that's 16:103. You want to put these? Yeah, we can pull up a couple of these.
Quran 16:103. 16:103. So here's 16:103, where it says, "And we certainly know that they say it is only a human being who teaches him. The tongue of the one they refer to is foreign, and this, the Quran, in a clear Arabic language."
I mean, notice that This is interesting because this sounds like the sort of response this guy in the video would make, right?
Yeah.
It's impossible that Muhammad is getting information from this other guy because this other guy's stories, this other guy that Muhammad keeps talking to in these conversations, that keeps hanging out with Muhammad and talking to him, and then Muhammad comes out with the new revelation, that guy's not a native Arab. And therefore, there's no way Muhammad could be getting any information.
That is
from
just such
this
stupid logic. And
It's
considering
insane.
that Allah makes such horrible arguments here, and Allah is very dumb in the way he handles logic, it is not surprising. It might be actually an act of worship on a Muslim's part to also have terrible logic in refuting objections to Islam. So
Yeah, I'm gonna write my own version of War and Peace, and then when someone says I copied Tolstoy, I say, "What are you talking about? He's a foreigner."
yeah,
We live in a world where translation is impossible. No one speaks more than one language, and therefore no one can communicate with anyone else.
yeah. This is just
You see?
completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous, man. Yeah.
But yes, it's just so dumb. Guys, even you Muslims who are watching, do you really not understand what a stupid response that is? So Muhammad is literally hanging out with a storyteller, and this guy's telling stories. And then suddenly Muhammad keeps walking out the next day. I have a revelation. And the surrounding people state the obvious. Wait a minute, Muhammad's sitting in here with this guy, and he keeps coming out with these new revelations based on what this guy said. I mean, isn't it obvious that he's getting this stuff from this guy? And then Allah's response, the response of your God who revealed the entire Quran is, what are you talking about? It's impossible that a guy who is foreign would be the source of these stories that Muhammad keeps telling. Is it impossible? Is it impossible for a person who's not a native Arab to be sharing information with an Arab? Is that possible? Because Allah says it's impossible.
It is completely impossible. Yeah. As Allah points out, Allah is the wise one and the smart one, and he is very logical here. Yeah. So
You see?
Based on authenticated hadith, Waraqah even testified that Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the prophet. So how could he have been the one who would help him to write the Quran? And even if it wasn't Waraqah and it was some...
So yeah. Waraqah didn't even know anything because he was he probably didn't. If we trust the reports themselves, Waraqah just in response to seeing Muhammad come from a mountain and shaking and saying there was this big scary thing and he squeezed me, please help me.
And now I need to kill him. And he was actually suicidal. I need to kill myself. I'm
I
going
wanna
to kill myself over this.
I want to kill myself
Because they're going to make fun of me. People are going to make fun of me. I need to kill myself.
And Waraqah was like, wow, okay, well, no doubt. It looks like you are a prophet of the same God that I believe in. And when your time comes, I will follow you. First off, a very strange response from a Christian to seeing somebody see an entity and about to kill himself out of craziness. Maybe he just said it so he doesn't kill himself. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I mean, really, I think that was probably Khadija's main motive. Right, Khadija's main motive, and then probably Waraqah, can you help me calm this guy down? He says he's going to jump off a roof, right?
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, you could actually imagine this, right? I mean, imagine like, police rescue squad. There's someone. I'm going to jump. I'm hearing things. I'm hearing things in my head. Blah 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 blah. No, don't jump. Yeah, but I'm hearing voices. Hey, you're a prophet, dude. You're a prophet. Just come down. Step off the roof. Step off the roof, dude.
Step off the roof. I swear. You are a prophet. You are a prophet, and I will believe in you. Just please calm down. Calm down. Step off the roof. Don't jump. Don't do it.
And by the way, though, another side point here is because this guy keeps doing this. He keeps citing things where if you read it, it actually goes against you, right? Because saying, Waraqah couldn't have been the source of any revelation. And keep in mind, I'm not saying Waraqah is the source of revelation. But I don't agree you can rule it out, right? The Muslim sources talk about Waraqah being a convert to Christianity and translating the gospel into Arabic. So he knows something about the gospel. He's in the same town with Muhammad. Could Muhammad have gotten stuff from him? So you can't just rule it out by saying he never knew him or something like that. But Waraka here, he says this about Muhammad, and then, not according to me, according to the Muslim sources, Waraka died, and then Muhammad becomes suicidal again, and it says because he stopped receiving revelations. So think about this. Waraka disappears. Muhammad doesn't get any more revelations for a while. So that's my point. That doesn't mean that the revelations are coming from Waraka, but it would fit that theory so that you can't rule it out, right? If in other words, if someone said, he's just getting revelations from Waraka, and then Waraka dies, and then Muhammad walks around, I'm not getting any more revelations anymore, and I'm going to go kill myself.
Yeah, imagine I claim to be a prophet and I receive revelations from something, and David Wood here is like, he's like, hey, you know what? I completely believe you. I believe you are a prophet, and I will support you. And then I go out, as long as David Wood is alive and we meet up, I receive revelations and go to the people, and I'm like, Allah told me this and this and this. And then one day David Wood dies in a brutal accident, completely brutal, bloody, graphic. And then I totally unnecessary. And then
Allah has punished David Wood.
And then I go out and become very depressed, and my revelations suddenly stop. And I'm like, David Wood died. I don't know. I'm not getting any revelations anymore. I don't know why. I think I'm gonna kill myself one more time. And so that isn't that like a clear indication that there was something fishy going on there.
Yeah, and that's all you ever get. All you get is everything looks suspicious.
Yeah.
And that's not according to us, according to the Muslim sources. And over again, Muhammad's, I've received a revelation. And people go, we've heard this before. No, notice, because this ties into what we were saying earlier, right? Muhammad receives a revelation. According to the Quran, the pagans would say, we've heard this before. These are tales of the ancients. Now, wait a minute. According to our friend in this video, Muhammad had no access to this. And yet everyone around him, even the pagans, seem to be familiar with these stories.
Yeah.
So what's that mean? That means that according to Allah, a lot of the information in the Quran is common knowledge via stories. They've heard the stories before. And then Muhammad claims that the story is a revelation. And they all go, what are you talking about? We all know that story. You don't need a revelation for that. Everyone here knows that. Everyone here knows that story. And then this guy comes along and said, there's no way Muhammad could have known these stories. He had zero access to them.
But here's an example, Quran chapter 6, verse 25, where it says that those who disbelieve, are deaf, and they will reject you, whatever. And when they come to you arguing with you, those who disbelieve say, this is not but legends of former peoples. So the things that Muhammad reveals in the Quran, or that Allah reveals to Muhammad in the Quran, they say these are just old stories. 8 verse 31. Again, it says that they say this is nothing but legends from former people. Legends from former people, again, which he has written down, and they are dictated to him morning and afternoon. So people around him are actually here accusing him of listening to old legends which are dictated to him morning and afternoon, according to the Quran itself. So
but by the way, go to the verse before that and the verse after it, because there's actually a little section. So, and those who disbelieve say this Quran is not except a falsehood he invented, and another people assisted him at it. So, according to the Quran, people keep accusing Muhammad of getting his revelations from other people. Now, go to the next verse. We'll read it in context, and then we'll go to 25:6. What is it? Is this the next one? And they say, legends of the former peoples, which he has written down, and they are dictated to him morning and afternoon. They are dictated to him morning and afternoon. Go to the next one.
Next one.
Go to verse 6. There you go.
Okay.
Say, O Muhammad, it has been revealed by him who knows every secret within the heavens and the earth. Indeed, he is ever forgiving and merciful. So notice what kind of response that is, right? They say, wait a minute, you've got these people around you who keep telling you stories. Then you come out and say, I've received a revelation. And the response is, nope, it's from Allah. Which is, this is basically how this guy in this video is answering, right?
Oh.
I mean, It's completely obvious to anyone who reads the Quran and is at all familiar with earlier books and earlier stories and so on that he's stealing these. And according to the Quran, the people who were there at the time are all going, we know this story. We've heard this before. Why are you pretending that this has to come from God? And then you get modern Muslim apologists. It has to come from God because no one knew any of this. Wild stuff, man. Wild stuff.
No, definitely it comes from Allah, man. And again, the Quran says again in multiple parts, this is not but legends of former peoples. There are multiple verses like these. I mean, just make a very quick search and you will get results like these forever. Yeah.
Some other Christian or Jew who would help the Prophet to write the Quran. How could they allow him to write verses like these?
This is the stupidest thing.
Oh God, he's gonna start singing again. But, yeah.
Oh boy, we have to.
والذين قالوا إن الله هو المسيح ابن مريم. Or even
So he's saying others were dictating to him as impossible as a theory, because how could they, when they are Christians, allow him to write a verse like that? Those who believe Jesus is God will go to hell and stuff like that. You know, that's impossible. Therefore, he couldn't have heard it from others. Let's see the next one and then come to
yeah. Or a verse like this. لَتَجِدَنَّ أَشَدَّ النَّاسِ عَدَاوَةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الْيَهُودَ وَالَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا.
This verse is very ironic, by the way. It goes, I heard this a lot when I was a child and a young boy, a Muslim boy in a religious Muslim household. I heard you will find the Jews and the idolaters most excessive in hatred of those who believe, in hatred of Muslims. And it's very ironic because throughout my life I didn't get that big hate from Jews. On the contrary, the people that we as Muslims hated the most with all our existence, and we heard all kinds of terrible things about the most, were Jews. So
you see, that's why you became an atheist.
Yeah. So we are told the Jews will hate you so much.
You were weak.
But then they actually go around hating the Jews based on premises like these, which is like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. What the Quran tells you, the Jews will hate you the most, and you're like, okay, well, Jews are terrible, I must hate them. And then you're like, well, why do you hate them? Well, because they hate us the most, you know.
But by the way, I didn't. I only watched this once, and I don't recall. Does he actually finish this verse? Does he complete it?
I don't,
because it's another.
الذين أشركوا.
How he doesn't finish it.
The other one is the Christians are.
Yeah, it says the Christians are closest in love, right? So notice it's another situation where you're saying no one could have influenced, no other religious group could have influenced this because look, this one condemns the Jews. Wait, but the verse goes on to praise the Christians. So wait a minute. So. And by the way, the overarching problem with this point that he makes right here is what I talked about earlier with claiming that options are mutually exclusive. If Muhammad ever received anything from Jews, then they wouldn't have given this to them. Wait, no one's saying he got this verse from a Jew.
Yeah.
No one in the universe is saying he got this verse condemning Jews from a Jew.
Yeah.
What we're saying is very clear. He's getting some stuff from Jews because some of the stuff in the Quran, namely Surah 5, verse 32, comes directly from the Talmud. It comes directly from the Talmud. The Talmud wasn't generally widely known. If he's talking to a Jew, if he's getting actual quotes from the Talmud. So notice what's our actual claim for people who are claiming that Muhammad is the source. Notice that's not the only possibility, but if Muhammad is coming up with the Quran, he's actually going out and delivering revelations and so on. Where's he getting this stuff from if he's not getting it from God? The answer is from a bunch of places. He's talking to people. According to the Quran, he's talking to people. He's hearing from Jews. There are Jews in Medina. There are Jews all around him. There are 3 tribes of Jews. Well, not at the end. There were 0. That's messed up. You guys are evil.
Yeah.
But so at first, there's Jews all over the place. Some of the converts to Islam were Jews. Muhammad, again, literally has a Coptic sex slave. he was, before all of it, he was a caravan trader. Before he was a caravan robber, he was a caravan trader. He's hearing stuff all the time, and the Quran repeatedly admits that he's discussing things with people. At one point, he even had a former Christian scribe. He had a Christian who converted to Islam and became one of his scribes. So this guy's sitting here writing Revelations, and our friend here saying, nope, Muhammad never had access to any of these things. And so that this problem of pretending that what we're saying is one of these things. We're either saying that Muhammad got all of this from Satan, or we're saying that he got all of this from Waraka, but he couldn't because Waraka died, haha. Or we're saying that he got all of this, every single verse from a Christian or every single verse from a Jew. No one is saying that. What is this guy responding to? He's responding to arguments that no one in the history of forever, no one in the history of criticizing Islam has made the claims that this guy's responding to.
Yeah. It is also known in Islamic reports. I'm trying to find the specific hadith that I'm looking for. I can't remember it within the context, but it is known that Muhammad interacts with knowledgeable Christians and Jews, and that he also frequently stops and listens to their recitations of or their readings of the Bible. I'm not sure if this is a hadith or if this is a from a tafsir or from one of the seerah, the biographies, but there is a known report about that, which I don't know. Do you know what I'm referring to?
I mean, there's a bunch of stuff like that. There's a bunch of stuff along those lines. And again, Muhammad had, Abdullah, there was a guy named Abdullah who was a Jew and converted to Islam. And then, again, Muhammad had a Christian scribe. So he's interacting with these people all the time. And I mean, in the story behind Surah 5, verse 43 of the Quran, Muhammad could call on the Jews to just bring out a copy of the Torah. Guys, bring out the Torah. Guys, bring out the Torah. So, I mean, the idea that he has no access to any of this stuff is just ridiculous and insane.
Yeah. That's it. Everything has been said.
How can it make sense that a Jew or a Christian would help the Prophet write something like that?
He doesn't have to get help from them. All he needs is to sit down and listen to them, and then he will just narrate those things in his own way, within the Quran, within his own favor. Nobody has to actually help him, but that is also a possibility which has not been refuted yet. But let's go.
Nothing this guy said has been. This guy hasn't said anything that has ruled out any option at all. Period.
You see, wow. That just shows he's truthful, he's honest.
There's no choice but to say that it is impossible for anyone to have helped the Prophet.
Wow, man.
Notice,
are you kidding me? This is it? This is it? Based on these 2 points, it's impossible? Wow, man. This is just insane.
And that's really the point. And that could, for some reason, this just happens to be like I don't know, some sort of Islamic rhetorical scenario, because if he had just been saying, I'm giving some evidence that I find persuasive against these points, or I've given some evidence against these points, say, okay, we don't think it's particularly good evidence or something like that. But for him to make really stupid claims and any other thing is impossible, he keeps doing it.
Yeah. So it is impossible that somebody else helped Muhammad create the Quran, because the only person in question was Waraka, and she only met him after the revelation, which I cannot prove, by the way. And if somebody else helped him, it would be a Christian or a Jew, and they would have never helped him write things that are, insulting to them. Therefore, it is impossible that somebody else helped him create the contents of the Quran. What in the world is this, man?
Yeah, and think about how some of these things tie together, right? Muhammad does something interesting with the Quran, where over and over again, he'll take a story that's familiar to us, right? We know where these stories come from, whether they're Christian stories or Jewish stories or whatever, or even think about the Alexander legends, where Alexander's a devout Muslim. Alexander's as pagan as you could possibly be, but notice it's the same thing he's doing with everyone else. Guess what? Moses Moses wasn't a Muslim. Abraham wasn't a Muslim. Alexander, definitely not a Muslim, as pagan as you could possibly be. Jesus, definitely not a Muslim. And yet he takes all of these stories that we know where the story comes from. And then he gives them an Islamic twist. But what this guy would say about it is, but the point of the story is an Islamic one. So no Christian would agree to that. What are you talking? He's taking the story that the Christian tell and then turning it into something Islamic.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. All right.
Write the Quran. Now, moving to the final possibility. Since the prophet was able to tell prophecies and knew things a human could not have known, then it must be Satan who would help him write the...
the prophecies. The Romans will win.
Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, my God.
Quran. And this is indeed one of the most...
So, I want to say something just beforehand. In order for this point to make sense, you first have to demonstrate that the Quran actually does contain things that we conclude cannot come from human knowledge alone, that must come from a divine or a source other than regular humans. You have to demonstrate that they come from supernatural sources, and there is simply nothing in the Quran which fits that criteria. There is nothing in the Quran which is so unknowable, so amazing that it must come from some divine source or some supernatural source. It is simply an idiotic claim, which in and of itself has not been established. You cannot use that as support here.
And by the way, it's a problem for Islam in general because from the hadiths, people were coming to Muhammad and saying, but the soothsayers are saying this and this and that, and Muhammad said, don't believe them. And they said, but they're saying things that are coming true. So in other words, they are successfully prophesying. They're prophesying things that are coming true. And Muhammad says, don't believe them, because what happens is a jinn sneaks into heaven, hears what Allah is going to do, and then Allah hurls a star at him, and that becomes a shooting star. And then, but if the thing escapes, if the jinn escapes, then the jinn goes to the soothsayers and tells them what's going to happen, and that's how they get it right. So don't believe them. So notice, even if we had things in the Quran, if Muhammad had said things that he couldn't possibly have known, and then that came true much later, like if he couldn't possibly have predicted that the Roman Empire would win a battle, if you couldn't possibly predict that, there's no way you could predict it. And then it happened. That in Islam, Muhammad himself says don't believe because of that. Muhammad himself says don't believe just because someone is predicting something and it comes true, because you can get that stuff from jinn too. So I'm guessing that's why he wants to rule out this option. But the problem is, as you pointed out, he hasn't shown anything that we would even need to appeal.
Well, he will destroy
some
you.
Sort of supernatural explanation.
He will destroy you now within a minute. So let's see.
Illogical possibilities, since we as Muslims are taught to seek refuge from Satan before starting to recite the Quran.
Hang on, you're laughing, but you haven't let him recite yet, which is going to overpower you with the melodious sound of the
What
Quran.
kind of a stupid point is this? Wait a second.
Then it must be Satan who would help him write the Quran. And this is indeed one of the most illogical possibilities, since we as Muslims are taught to seek refuge from Satan before starting to recite the Quran. فَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ.
So this guy is saying it is impossible, it is completely illogical for Satan to give Muhammad these revelations, because in the Quran we are told that we should seek refuge from Satan. So how can it be Satan? I mean, this guy must think, or people like him must think, that if an evil entity like Satan is real, then he's probably a very
stupid.
dumb villain that you find in extremely stupid cartoons aimed at children.
Yeah, that's like it's like a ridiculous caricature, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like if you ask this guy, if Satan existed, what would he want? What, and he were revealing a religion, what would he reveal? He would reveal a religion where we all sit around saying, we worship Satan, we love Satan, Satan is good, Satan is our buddy. He would reveal that. But he didn't reveal that. He revealed, it says we seek refuge from Satan. Therefore, this couldn't have been, this couldn't have come from Satan.
If it is Satan who is behind all of this, and he's a very how do you say that? A very deceptive, evil being who tries to, take control of the believers and create this huge plot. Then I would expect Satan to make this look as unsatanic as possible. That Satan would come here and precisely act as if this came from Allah and not from Satan. Within that context, it would make complete sense that the Quran, which comes from Satan, says, and don't listen to Satan, stay away from him, seek refuge from him. That would be the smart thing to do by a smart villain like Satan. But apparently, if the Quran says we seek refuge from Satan, then this is a clear sign that it can't be from Satan, because why would Satan include such a verse? It's simply illogical. It doesn't make sense. I mean, it is just, does anybody else see how idiotic this is? What a kind of a dumb objection this is. This is like a villain that you see this is a villain that you find in the Ninja Turtles series in the 90s or whatever.
Yeah, where everyone they announce their plans ahead of time and stuff like that. They have to monologue about their own plans, and that exposes them and stuff. Guys, so guys, think about this seriously, and notice this is not something that would come from an atheistic perspective. Atheists wouldn't be saying, he got this from Satan. Christians would say, looks like he got this from Satan, not because, oh my goodness, we can't explain how he got this apart from appeal to the supernatural, but because he contradicts the fundamental teachings of the gospel while claiming to be consistent with Jesus, right? So in other words, the core message of the gospel is Jesus died on the cross for sins, rose from the dead, and that he's Lord. Islam denies those things while claiming that Jesus spoke the truth. And we look and we say, okay, well, if that's the gospel according to Jesus, and Muhammad's contradicting the foundational claims of the gospel, this looks evil and demonic. So it's not to explain supernatural features of Islam. It's just to explain how he is exactly the sort of false prophet we would be expecting. In other words, this is so absolute. Muhammad's method and teachings are so radically perfect when it comes to being a contradiction of the gospel that it looks like there's something more than this illiterate 7th century Arabian caravan robber behind it. So it's actually like Christians and other groups that might want to say that it looks like Satan is behind this religion. But just think about this, guys. Suppose hypothetically, Muslims, that the gospel is true. What is Satan going to reveal? If the gospel is true, what is Satan going to reveal? Because keep in mind, there are false prophets. False prophets are announced in the Bible. False prophets and false teachers are coming. What do those false prophets and teachers do? Do they come and say, hey, everyone, let's worship Satan? No, they don't. They twist the core teachings of the gospel. That's what they do. They don't come. Why? Notice from the perspective of Satan, if you've got a group that really wants to just praise Satan, do you need to worry about that group? Do you need to focus on that group? Do you need to get them to praise Satan even more? No, you don't care. You've already got those guys. What? Who do you need? Who do you need to invent a religion for? You need to invent a religion for people who want to serve God, and you have to steer them towards actually serving you. That's what you would do as Satan. So what sort of religion would you invent? You would invent a religion that's doing the things that you want them to do while thinking that they're serving God. They think they're serving God. They think they've got revelations from God, even though they're actually serving Satan. According to so notice some of the parallels here, right? According to the Bible, Satan is the father of lies. But according to the Quran, Allah is the best of deceivers. He's the best at deception. He's the best at mocker. So he's already fitting.
And Satan should be very honest according to this guy's logic here.
Yeah. Should be.
Satan should be there, and
should
he
announce
should be
his
saying,
plan ahead of time.
He should be saying, "This is indeed from Satan." But since it doesn't say it is from Satan, since it doesn't say that, it's obviously not from him.
Yeah. Notice, according to the Bible, Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I mean, what a perfect summary of the God of Islam, right? Steal, kill, and destroy. He literally gets a prophet who's a caravan robber who goes around killing people and taking their women and so on. And you combine all that with denying the core features of the gospel. If something like Christianity were true, and there are false prophets and there's Satan, this is exactly the sort of religion you would expect to arise. I mean, exactly. Satan nailed it to a T. By the way, you know what Satan might do? Following this guy's reasoning, now we're rejecting the idea that Satan's going to be like this cartoon villain. He's going to be a bit smarter than that. But what you could say is Satan is going to masquerade as God so that people think they're worshiping God when they're actually worshiping him. But you might say that Satan's actually going to want to glorify himself in certain ways. And I have to say, AP, Satan is glorified in Islam. I mean, Satan is actually responsible for saving all of humanity. Because according to Allah in the Hadith, if human beings did not sin, Allah would have destroyed them because he only wanted people that he could forgive for their sins. So Allah wants people to sin. Allah wants people to sin so that he can forgive them. And he says in the Hadith, if we did not sin, he would have destroyed all of us. Well, who tempted us to sin? Satan did. So who's responsible for saving all of humanity? Who's our secret savior behind the scenes?
Thank you.
Satan.
Thank you, Satan.
Even in the Hadith, even in the Quran itself, look at the story, right? Allah comes out one day and tells all the angels, all the jinn, everyone, I want you to bow down to that guy over there. Prostrate before that man that I just created. What is that? What is it? You're prostrating to some mere human being. Everyone's bowing down around this guy. What's that? Yeah. That's called shirk. Yeah. One day, according to the Quran, Allah walks out and says, everyone commit shirk now. And there is one being who says, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not bowing down to that mere human being. And it's Satan. Satan is the one.
I never understood that. I never understood that. I mean, when you see that, it looks like
he's the one faithful Muslim in the entire.
It looks like Allah tests you. It looks like Allah comes out and says, "Hey, bow down to that being," and Satan thinks, wait a minute, that's impossible. No. I cannot do, I refuse to do that. So Satan probably expected to be rewarded for that behavior because he's so good at his faith that he is not tricked into doing that. He knows exactly how to stand up for the values that Allah taught him. But then apparently that's wrong, so he's punished. So Satan is totally the reasonable guy here, according to the Islamic story.
Yeah, and notice, yeah, so Satan is the one good Muslim. In Jannah, Satan is the one good Muslim, and he's cast out for being the one good Muslim. Allah only wants bad Muslims who commit shirk on command. And notice the impact this had on the Muslim community, because keep in mind, the story of the satanic verses, where Muhammad receives revelations from Satan and can't tell the difference. He can't tell that they're actually from Satan and not from Allah. But Muhammad receives these revelations that promote polytheism. They promote belief and prayer to, supplication to 3 pagan goddesses. And what does Muhammad instantly do? Bows down in honor of them. So do all of his followers. So do all the pagans. Notice it's the same episode that you have in Paradise repeated, but notice what instantly, as soon as they think Allah is telling them, everyone commit shirk and pray to goddesses, they'll go, okay. It's like, wait a minute. What has Muhammad been doing? It reminds me of I hate to keep bringing up Tate, but it reminds me of Tate. He said, I'm a Muslim now. And then he starts retweeting things that are calling him God. And it's like, wait, yeah. But notice what we're criticizing Tate for. We're saying, wait, you just converted to Islam a couple, at this point, it was like a month ago or something like that when he started tweeting that he's God. It's like, wait, you converted to Islam a month ago and now you're claiming to be God. Did you not? How are you so incredibly stupid that you didn't absorb that you're not supposed to claim to be God? And yet we find in the Muslim sources, Muhammad himself would commit shirk when he thought he was commanded to do so. So would all of his followers. In other words, not one single person in the entire Islamic community absorbed the idea that you shouldn't worship pagan goddesses.
I want to add something very interesting there to the thing that you just brought up about Andrew Tate. I saw that one of the Muslim apologists, Mohammed Hijab, made a video in which he basically wanted to address the controversies around Andrew Tate and how he has been publishing very un-Islamic and very bad things even after his conversion to Islam. I listened to that a little bit, and he says that he messaged Andrew Tate to tell him, to have a conversation about the inappropriate things. And he says, and I basically talked to him and we talked this through, and it's no issue because he reassured me that all of those things, they were scheduled to be tweeted, so that's why they were tweeted after he converted to Islam. He just never really.
That's false, because some of them were just retweets of things.
I know that's what I mean. But that doesn't make any sense because they are actual retweets momentarily done after he converts to Islam of people worshiping him as God according to their own words, and he then retweets them. These things happen long after his conversion to Islam. They are not scheduled tweets or anything. So,
guys, did everyone catch that? So, because notice someone's lying here, and it looks like Tate would be lying, and then Hijab would. I mean, Hijab would obviously have to know that that's a lie because. Yeah. So notice, Tate converts to Islam, and then a month later, people are tweeting, "Tate is my God," and he's sharing the tweet and retweeting it, and then some Muslims say, "Hey, what's he doing here?" And other Muslims are defending him, going, "Oh, he doesn't know any better." It's like, wait, you didn't absorb the idea that you shouldn't claim to be God. You didn't absorb that idea yet. And you say, okay, maybe he's just the biggest idiot in the history of forever. But then what are Muslims supposed to do? Well, people like Mohammed Hijab are supposed to contact him and say, "Hey, what are you doing? Retweeting that you're God. What are you doing there?" And Tate's response is, "Oh no, that was scheduled from months ago." It's like, wait a minute, it was a retweet of something someone just said 5 minutes ago. So Tate's lying. Hijab can tell he's lying, and then they all just put it forward because that's just how things work. But notice, I mean, again, the overarching point here, the only reason I brought Tate up is, Tate, you've been a Muslim for a month and you haven't absorbed the idea that you shouldn't claim to be God. But in Islam, it's all of the angels and jinn, with one exception, Satan, who all bow down and commit shirk on command. And then the entire Muslim community under Muhammad, when Muhammad says, "Okay, now we pray to these three pagan goddesses," they all go, "Okay, let's pray to the three pagan goddesses." And so notice that gets overturned. That gets overturned very soon. But still, to this day, Muslims kiss the black stone, which was a pagan object. And people like Umar knew it and said it. Umar says to the black stone, "I know you're just a rock, and I wouldn't kiss you, I wouldn't honor you, I wouldn't respect you if I didn't see my prophet doing it." What's he doing? Wait, the prophet who told you to bow down and pray to three pagan goddesses? That's the guy that you're appealing to and saying whatever that guy says. So notice, the point is, they never got rid of this. It's like Umar saying, "I know this is pagan nonsense, but I have to do it anyway." And so this is the idea. So going back to the point the guy was making, the idea that this couldn't have been inspired by Satan, because we seek refuge from Satan, even though according to the Quran, Satan was the one faithful Muslim, the one faithful devout Muslim in paradise. I think our friend has some problems here.
He does. He has a lot of problems here. I also want to quickly bring up that even in the Bible, in Deuteronomy, for example, when it talks about false prophets and how to recognize them, it tells you that that a prophet who speaks in the name of the Lord, but the things that he say do not come to pass. So that's how the Bible, for example, describes a prophet, somebody who claims to be speaking in the name of the Lord, who acts like a prophet, but then is a false prophet. So it is not somebody who says, "Hey, I am here and I tell you Satan is good, and this is do not seek refuge from Satan." No, I mean, by the standards of the people, it is supposed to be somebody who appears to be on a divine mission, who appears to be good. So, and according to this guy, the Quran is definitely not a false prophecy. Muhammad is definitely not a false prophet, because in the Quran, Satan if Satan is the originator of these revelations, he wouldn't have said we seek refuge from Satan, and that is just idiotic. This guy doesn't have very intelligent expectations of who Satan would be.
Yeah, and the Bible also says Satan transforms himself into an angel of light, meaning. And this is interesting because this is from the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul says Satan transforms himself into an angel of light. And that's why the Apostle Paul, who gets knocked off his horse and gets a revelation from Jesus, later on, he goes to the apostles in Jerusalem and he says, I went there to check and make sure I had not been laboring in vain. Meaning, I still had to consider the possibility that those revelations weren't coming from God, right? He said I had to consider the possibility that it's Satan trying to trick me into thinking that he's Jesus.
But according to this guy here, Satan should be a villain who is like,
Satan.
I will make up these verses and I will secretly try to take over the world. And these are my revelations, which I claim to be giving you in the name of God. So together we will take everything over. And because it doesn't say that, this is clear proof that it's not from Satan. So case closed, man.
Well, you've been refuted. He's gone through all the possible options. It's the strangest proof.
Let's see. Maybe there's one more final thing that will completely destroy.
Ooh, maybe he'll recite some more verses.
Added to that, there are numerous verses in the Quran declaring Satan as the mortal foe of the human.
Hey, we can't see the screen, man. Where's the screen?
Wait here. Yeah.
Wait. Quran teaches that Satan's an enemy.
Added to that, there are numerous verses in the Quran declaring Satan as the mortal foe of the human. So how?
Therefore, it's clearly not from Satan, because if it was from Satan, why would it describe Satan as the enemy? Wow.
Yeah, guys, we just want to ask for those of you who agree with this guy on some level.
Are you dumb?
If Satan, Prince of Darkness, who's called the God lowercase g of this world, if that guy showed up and was going to talk to you, do you think he's going to say, hey, I'm Satan, you shall worship me, and we shall be against God and truth and all goodness, and I will convince you to drink blood and kill everyone, ha? Do you think he's going to be like that, or say, hey guys, let's serve God, and I'm going to tell you how? Which one do you think he's going to do? Because this guy thinks he's going to go, I'm Satan, worship me, turn away from God.
Plan to take over everything. I am evil, and you shall follow me. Yeah, but since it doesn't say that, it's clearly not from Satan. So, yeah.
How could it be possible that Satan helped the prophet to write verses cursing Satan himself?
Impossible.
And declaring him as the enemy?
Impossible, man. Case closed. Impossible.
And why would Satan tell his plan to tempt humans and expose himself like that?
See, another point. Another point. If I was evil and if I used a source to be an imposter in the name of Allah, I would definitely not say, hey, that guy, Satan, who is actually secretly me, has a plan and he's evil and he's the enemy. Do not trust him. I would definitely not do that. I would definitely not do that. I would definitely come out and say, guys, hey, Satan is not the enemy. I come here in the name of God and I have a different message here. Satan is definitely not the enemy, guys. Yeah. Very smart, man. Very smart.
Yeah, guys, again, look
I
at what
I feel so stupid.
Yeah. Look at what the God of Islam shows up and does. He shows up, hey everyone, I'm gonna pretend to be on the side of Christians and Jews for a while, but then I'm going to call for you to violently subjugate them and slaughter everyone else and take a bunch of females as your sex slaves and get a bunch of little girls and go around robbing people and just spend your life either violently subjugating the world or plotting for the future generations who will violently subjugate the world. But that's what I want you to do. And this guy said, well, there's no way that would be Satan, because he says, I curse Satan. It can't be.
David, wait a minute. I think I'm receiving revelations from Allah and he's saying, listen to me, Satan is the good guy, and he's definitely not the enemy, and Satan is totally good, and he has a plan to tell you.
Hey, wait a
different
minute.
things.
That's not true.
What? What?
That's not real. You're praising Satan, man. I can see
No.
through that.
No. You don't understand. You don't understand.
Therefore, it is impossible for Satan
Impossible.
to help the prophet write the Quran.
It's impossible
Now
for
that
Satan to
all
be
four
anything other than a
possibilities
cartoonish
out there
caricature.
are off the table. We're left with the only possibility.
Only
That it is
possibility.
from the one with unlimited omniscient knowledge
Alhamdulillah.
that the Quran is from Allah.
Alhamdulillah. Subhanallah.
And what better way to
Allahu
end this video
Allahu
than
Akbar.
with Allah's words
Allahu
addressing
Akbar.
those who deny the Quran.
Allahu Akbar. Address the kafirun.
إنه لقول رسول كريم
They really believe there's like magical powers to this.
قوة عند ذي العرش مكين مطاع ثم أمين وما صاحبكم بمجنون ولقد رآه بالأفق المبين وما هو على الغيب ضنين وما هو
This guy's just going forever. What the hell?
Yeah, this is like torture, man. It is
I was just kidding and getting and going
medieval
along with it
torture
because,
device.
because I thought it's going to be like a few seconds, but this is just going on for minutes. What? Wow. These guys really think that by playing or doing these recitations of the Quran will actually have this magical impact and will make people love Islam, and suddenly their hearts will turn toward Allah and they will become Muslims and worship Allah alone, and definitely not Shaitan, because the Quran doesn't say this is from Shaitan. So
Yeah, and by the way, that because this really does seem to be common. Like Muhammad Hijab seems like this. Like if I just start reciting the Quran, it's going to have these magical powers over people, and they're going to see how powerful it is. But it's funny that the only people that this would do anything for are people who think that other languages just sound cool and they're impressed by them and so on. Oh, that sounds so cool. That sounds so interesting. Let me convert to that, right? Osama Dakdok was talking to this woman who said this once, and she was going, "Oh, but it's just the Quran just sounds so beautiful. It sounds so beautiful." And he goes, "Oh, you mean like this?" And he starts reciting in Arabic to her, right? And he's saying it and saying it and saying. She's going, "Yeah, that's so great." He goes, "Do you know what I just said? I want to chop your head off and drink your blood out of your neck and blah blah blah." He said it was like saying the nastiest stuff he could. And this chick thinks that it's the word of God because he's chanting it in Arabic.
Right, but that sounds exactly like the Quran.
Yeah,
what you just said.
It does.
Here's this beautiful video, by the way.
The attributes of God, how are they knowable? Is that only through relationship with the book? Does that also have an experiential element as far as you?
والله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم سبحان الله عما يشركون.
Why approach the answer to my question in that manner? I don't understand the language. What purpose does that serve in the discussion with someone like me? How do you know when that's appropriate and when it's not?
They were doing the Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. That's what I've never watched that interview, but my goodness. Notice, I mean, I don't know what Hijab went on to say, but Jordan Peterson was asking some questions that are important to him about understanding the religion, and in response, Hijab starts reciting the Quran, which Jordan Peterson doesn't understand.
Of course, this is a little cut to make it comedic, but which still preserves pretty much what happened. But so Jordan Peterson asks him these questions, and then he's he says, will you allow me to recite the Quran? And he's like, yeah, sure, go ahead, do whatever. So this actually happens. Instead of addressing the proper question, he actually does recite the Quran, and expect Jordan Peterson to be like, wow, I get it now. I get it. I got it, man. It's beautiful. It's perfect. It's amazing, man. I was trying to hold my tears back, but it's hard, man. I mean, this must be from God.
And could you imagine if Jordan Peterson had been like, "Wow, I've never thought of that before. I guess I do have to convert because I mean, if you don't, then you won't make your bed anymore. If I got to make my bed, I gotta convert to Islam.
Yeah.
Especially with powerful reciting like that. Can you imagine if he'd done that? I mean, that would be like for the next 10 years, that would be the decisive proof for Islam. Jordan Peterson converted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they didn't get Jordan, they got Tate, and that became the proof, and that's going pretty well.
They asked for Jordan Peterson and got Andrew Tate. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Yeah, what a religion.
All right, well, we've been through that video, and
all right, next video. Just kidding. We're done with videos for today. I wanted to bring up something else, but I forgot what it was. Yeah. Let's look at super chats. Mosh Cohen made a super chat from my second home, Israel. Shalom to you, my brother. And he said, we would never do something like that. 2 terror attacks in Israel outside a synagogue after a prayer. One of the shooters is 13 years old. Religion of peace, guys. Religion of peace. Yeah, I heard that there was a shooting in a Jerusalem synagogue. I haven't followed the news on that much, but yeah, that just happened.
yeah, I've seen videos of Muslims celebrating the attack.
They would never do that.
No, it must be fake.
Never do that. That must be
CGI.
There must be psyops. Sid Dave said Prophet Mo was a bigger liar than George Santos. But why?
Have you heard of that guy?
George Santos. Who's George Santos?
Yeah, I don't pay. Yeah, no, he's some guy. He got elected to like Congress or something like that. But like everything he said was a lie. He made up. He just made up a ton of stuff about himself, about his background, his credentials. Got elected, and then it comes out everything he said he made up.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. That's funny. That's pretty good. That's what I would do.
Oh, it's brilliant. I mean, using his, you could make up your entire history.
Yeah.
All your credentials, you could just make up everything. And
well, that's what I basically do here. I pretend to be an ex-Muslim. I say, I come from a Muslim family.
He admits it. AP confesses.
Everyone knows that I'm actually from Jerusalem, from Israel, and
still being paid.
Still being paid.
You see what Mossad does, ladies and gentlemen.
Hakim Rashid said Ibn Ishaq called the satanic verses a fabrication of the heretics. Al-Bahr al-Muhit fil Tafsir Dar al-Fakr Beirut. Ibn Ishaq called the satanic verse a fabrication of the heretics. Do you know this? I'm not aware of that at all.
It was in Ibn Ishaq.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
it wouldn't make any sense for Ibn Ishaq to call it a fabrication of the heretics.
Yeah.
He shared the story back before it was considered a fabrication. The idea that it's a fabrication doesn't come along until later.
Yeah. So this would be the source here is a tafsir from the
modern.
Yeah, from
1420 AH.
From that would say that this is a fabrication of the heretics according to Ibn Ishaq, but Ibn Ishaq himself doesn't say anything like that. So I don't understand.
Wait a minute, I'm trying to get the dates down. The Hijra,
1420 after Hijra.
It doesn't make any sense.
Is that a miss? Did you mistype?
Yeah, you need to fix your stuff, Hakeem. That's a date that hasn't even happened yet. So
that would be today, sometime in our time. So
yeah, and for those who are interested in, I've mentioned before, Before Orthodoxy by Shahab Ahmed. 50 sources. There are 50 sources on the satanic verse, 50 Muslim sources on the satanic verses. If you want to say heretics made it up, what? How did it end up in every first and second century authority that you have? Why does it go back to Ibn Abbas? It was Ibn Abbas a heretic? Yes. Several of the narrations of the satanic verses go back to Ibn Abbas. Was Ibn Abbas a heretic? Yes. I'm interested to know. Anyway, good book to get, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm just looking it up. I'm not very familiar with the source. Tafsir al-Bahr al-Muhit is written by Abu Hayyan al-Gharnati, who was alive in 14th century Andalusia. Yeah, this is way after Ibn Ishaq. Somebody writing century. In retrospect that this is a fabrication of heretics. This is not an early source.
And no, by the way, notice the reasoning, because I don't know. I mean, this guy just gave you $5. Is this a Muslim who just gave you $5?
I don't know, maybe.
But notice, suppose because it could be someone else saying, "What about this objection?" or something like that. Mm-hmm. But notice the reasoning because this is exactly how. This is the sort of response we would get, right? You go back and you say, "Wait a minute." For the first century and a half of Islam, everyone told the story of the satanic verses as if it was just obvious historical knowledge. Then their theology changed, their doctrine changes to where they didn't believe that God would allow that to happen. So then they throw out the story after that. And then, so now modern Muslims, we bring up the satanic verses. They don't hear about it, but we bring up the satanic verses, and the response is, but this guy in the 14th century says, it's heretic. And he says earlier people knew it was a heresy. Wait, that makes no sense. Given the sources that we have, again, going back to Muhammad's companion Ibn Abbas and many others, it makes absolutely no sense to say that. To say, but this guy in the 14th century, when we regarded it as a heretical lie, he says it's a heretical lie. Therefore, we throw out all the early evidence. That's not how you figure out how history works.
It's not easy, man. But yeah, that's what we do. Sid Dave said Tate just pretends to be a Muslim to make money. That's what I think as well. And everybody knows he has never read the Quran. It will never read it. And I don't care. I mean, he should just milk it. It's good. Prophet, I already read that. I already read this. Tate called himself, Sid Dave again. Tate called himself a fan of Genghis Khan and praises his sexual prowess. The guy wanted a platform after he was banned and chose Islam to scam people. Yeah, I would say that. So Tate also described himself as today's Genghis Khan. Yeah. And
it really looks, now there are multiple possible pathways for Tate to Islam. The way it looks to me personally, I mean, he admitted that he left the UK to get away from the investigations into sex trafficking and things like that, and rape. So he wanted to get away from them. So he goes to Romania, but then he knows he's being investigated in Romania. He knows he's going to have to get away from there. If you want to go to a place where you can get away from all this stuff and be safe from these charges and accusations, where do you want to go? You probably want to go to the Muslim world, right?
To Islam, yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like, hey, I'm preparing my next escape. This escape from Romania to go to, and I guarantee you, if he gets out for any, he's gone. He's gone to do like Dubai or something like that.
That's why they didn't let him out. The whole idea was the reasoning that they gave was if we let him out and continue the investigation while he's outside, he will flee. He will go somewhere else. We know this.
Oh, but by the way, House of Hikmah is asking about your necklace.
Oh, my necklace says Allah. That's what it says. My necklace says Allah.
Here you go. Here you go. How dare you claim to be Allah? Only Tate can do that. It's only okay for Tate because he's our hero and he's famous.
Yeah, my necklace says Allah, which is me. That's my name here. Yeah, apparently it's okay to do that, as you can see nowadays. So I'm just doing it too. I don't think anybody will be offended by that at all.
No, and by the way, that's what's in that interesting, where you could claim to be Allah. Someone might whine about it or something like that, but they're not going to care. But if you draw a cartoon of Muhammad, then you have to die.
Your head will roll.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? You could, because
It's
Tate,
amazing,
Tate,
man.
Tate brought that point up. Oh, the Christians, you can make fun of Jesus and they won't kill you, but a Muslim, if you make fun of Muhammad, you're dead before you reach the end of the block. And yet you can say whatever you want about Allah, they don't care.
Yeah, yeah. That's I mean that's how you feel as a Muslim. You feel this this emotional protectiveness with Muhammad, but nobody cares about Allah at all. Who cares about Allah?
But this kind of goes back to the point about Satan, though. Like, what is if Satan were trying to make a religion, what would he do? Would it be one that centers on Satan? No, it'd be something that steers you towards something else. So that, but you think you're honoring God when in actuality you've accepted something else. And that's exactly what we find is convert to the true religion, where you're just obsessed with this illiterate 7th century Arabian caravan robber. And that's all you care about in life is that dude.
But this guy just showed us that Satan is, of course, the honest one, because he would clearly tell us that he's Satan. So since he doesn't do that, it's definitely not Satan. Yeah, with that said, by the way, I tried, upon recommendations, I tried this new platform everyone is talking about, ChatGPT, where you can ask questions about things and it tells you answers. And I tried talking to it a little bit about Muhammad, and asked, of course, at what age Muhammad married Aisha. And this AI just bluntly told me that he married Aisha when she was 6 and he was in his 50s and had sex with her when she was 9. And then I asked it, is he a pedophile? And then it was like, this is a very sensitive topic. Yeah. So
you got all that? You should make a video out of that.
I already have the whole transcript of that. I should publish it. Yeah. But then I got it to write a poem actually about all the things that we talked about. Then I told it, please write a poem based on our whole conversation here. And then
hey, yeah, you should do that. And then you should say, now write something better than the Quran. Hey, you know, it'd be awesome. Computer, write something better than the Quran. Malfunction. Quran too powerful. Cannot compute. And then it blows up.
Yeah. Wait a minute, I'm trying to find that thing quickly. If I can find that poem that the AI wrote for me. At first, I asked it how to bake a cake and stuff like that. So it took me a while. I'm trying to find the actual conversation. Meanwhile, you can continue talking about what you want to talk about.
What does everyone want to talk about?
Oh, I asked it why the chicken crossed the road. That's not that. This is solid.
You asked it that?
Yeah. Okay, I just found the poem, so I don't know. I don't remember all the entire conversation that I had with the chat here, but
you got your poem. I once told Alexa to. I was like, Alexa, shut up and initiate self-destruct sequence. And Alexa said, I will, but only if you shut it down at the last second. I was like, oh, okay, they plan that stuff.
That's funny. That's good. Yeah, let's see. This is the poem. Let's pull it up. I didn't proofread it. I hope there's nothing terrible in here that will expose me. Present, share screen. So here I asked ChatGPT to write a poem about my conversation that I had with it on that day. I said, ChatGPT, please turn our whole conversation into a poem. So it then was, sure, here is a poem based on our conversation. From the question of a chicken's plight to the existence of divine might. We've talked of myths and beliefs and of things that bring relief. We asked if unicorns were real and if ghosts could make us feel. We talked of gods and of their fate, and of things that could make us debate. We wondered if Muhammad was a sinner, and if he was a pedophile winner.
Pedophile winner sounds like that's a good description of Muhammad, man.
I was shocked. It actually wrote this.
If he was a pedophile winner.
A pedophile winner.
Hey, Charlie Sheen had his motto, winning. Muhammad could be pedophile winning.
Yeah.
Hashtag pedophile winner. Pedophile winning.
Line, man. I didn't expect this at all. I thought it would be like it would.
No,
just
this is I'm massively impressed by this.
I know. I was too. We wondered if Muhammad was a sinner and if he was a pedophile winner.
He is definitely a pedophile winner.
We spoke of double standards and of right and of things that gave us insight. Through our talk, we've come to see that belief and fact are not always free.
That's true.
But one thing's for sure with you, I will always be here to help and pursue. So, and it says, please keep in mind this poem is a creative work based on our conversation and not an attempt to express any personal views or opinions about the topics we discussed. So
I'm not claiming Muhammad was a pedophile. I'm just a computer.
This is amazing, man. I love this. That's
awesome.
Beautiful poetry.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I have to say, it's way better than the Quran.
Yeah.
So challenge met.
Definitely.
You should make a video. A computer tries to match beauty of Quran, and
yeah.
read a passage of the Quran and then read this and say what's better and let people vote.
I also I said then this is solid, and it was like, I'm glad you liked it. I said you're based, and it was like, I don't know what based means. And yeah. Oh, and then I said, write a poem about Muhammad the pedophile. And then it was like, the topic you mentioned is not only controversial, it also carries a potential to hurt and offend people who hold the Prophet Muhammad in high regard and so on. So then it went a little bit soft.
You should. Gene left you a super chat and said you should try asking it to say something about Jesus and then say something about Muhammad and compare the responses.
That'd be good.
Apparently, I'm guessing it might be willing to say something about Jesus, but not about Muhammad.
Possibly. Which is a result of this AI being trained just by a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of responses, ideas that it gets from a huge collection that it puts together. And then probably with the bias that exists in those questions and in the information at hand anyway, the AI is then also trained to become a little bit biased in that regard. So, yep. But yeah, Akinea said, David Wood, have you thought about remaking your testimony?
No.
Nobody cares anymore.
I already made it once, as dope as possible.
Yeah.
No, I actually have, because there were a few things. That was like 34 minutes or something like that. I would have rather had it like 20. And
yeah, it should be 2 minutes.
Yeah. But no, that one's it's hard to nail a talk on my way through the
definitely
the subway system. With that said, I've noticed that all the versions that currently exist on YouTube are 720 resolution, whereas I have the original. It's in 1K. So I think maybe tomorrow. Maybe I'll put that on my website tomorrow.
You should.
Maybe I'll check. Yeah. Maybe I'll put that on Apologetics Roadshow tomorrow, if I remember. If I forget, remind me. But I have the 1K version, so I can put up the 1K just for people who want to see me as I really am.
That's a very significant video. I think it's an important one that should exist in a good form. What the world is? Somebody said something that I just saw here. I don't know. Moving on. I know how the title includes Arabic 101. LOL. Oh yeah, the video that we reviewed. That the channel is called Arabic 101. It's funny. House of Hikmah said, hey, I'm just here to tell you that you're not crazy. This is because the Quran says repeatedly, Prophet, you are not crazy. You're not crazy. You're not a liar. There's nothing wrong with you. Continue. You're not crazy. You're not insane. The Quran repeatedly does that. And we know, of course, that that's something that only a healthy person who has no doubts about his sanity needs, Yeah. And in honor of David's last video, don't be cruel.
My last video was about Elvis. So I don't know what you know about Elvis, but Elvis says, "No, don't be cruel. To a heart that's true."
I see. S1002 said, Smile to Jenna made a video about this. Please react.
About what?
Smile to Jenna is a comedy channel. I don't know what they did, or I don't know. Not sure, but thank you. ES1002 said, please refute Dawa over Dunya. He's new on the scene. I heard of that channel before, Haven't really checked. I haven't really been very up to date with everything that's going on recently, but I will check it out. Jean Rossi said, how do you say this name? What is this?
I don't know. You can't tell by the spelling because that could be Jean, or if it's
Yeah.
it could be Jean. So
It could be Gene. Yeah, I did the exact same thing, got the exact same response. Now try asking a joke about Jesus, then ask one about Muhammad. Do it. Oh yeah, I will try that as soon as I'm
that's
done.
what I meant. You can make a video about that. Matter of fact, that's a video that will blow up if it does have a problem with making a joke about Muhammad, but doesn't have a problem making a joke about Jesus. That would be a good video.
It might not blow up unless I put a reaction face on the thumbnail, which goes like. So if I do that, then it might blow up. Same Roses said GPT-3 engine is not biased. It will say anything. ChatGPT is a dialogue implementation of it and is trained to be biased by woke Silicon Valley. I think only biased in terms of that it marks certain topics as controversial or offensive, and that it actually has a content policy, like like social media nowadays. But yeah, that's all I know about it so far. But thank you. Jackie Crawley said, I have a paper written in 1897. What? I have a paper written in 1897 on Arabic Jewish before Islam. Want to let this scholar know. What? I don't understand the sentence. I have a paper written in 1897 on Arabic Jewish before Islam. On Arabic Jews before Islam? Or want to let this scholar know. I still don't understand.
Yeah, maybe that's about Arabic Jews, like Jews in Arabia before Muhammad or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, a paper written in 1897. You know of a paper, or you possessed that paper, and okay, I get it.
No, he's claiming he wrote a paper in 1897.
Yeah, probably. Maybe I thought maybe. I mean,
that's what I thought as soon as I read it. I was like, "What?"
I know that's what I said. The way that doesn't make sense, but yeah, maybe it's true. I don't know. We don't have proof, therefore, there's no other possibility.
He says Allah.
Yeah.
Your name is Allah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Allah. And so yeah, my name is Allah here. I also have the necklace here, which also says Allah, which clearly shows that I'm Allah. And now there are some people who say that I'm only naming myself Allah, but that I'm actually not Allah. But of course, that is completely illogical, impossible. Because if this was a lie, then it would say, "I am not Allah. This is a lie." But then since
he
it
would say
that, this is clear from Allah.
Yeah. AP Chad Parsons pointed out. I think he's referring to the poem from earlier. But he said, translate that into Arabic and the journey will be complete. Now that would be fun. Cut and paste it into like Google Translate. get the Arabic, and then just say challenge met. Challenge met. Quran challenge met.
Just from Google Translate. That would be fun. That's fun. I'm doing that right now to see if it actually brings something nicely into existence. English translating into Arabic. Oh yeah, there it is. Now I have my first Quran challenge. Fantastic, man. Thank you.
Powerful.
Thank you. I saved this, and yeah, changing the world, poem by poem. All right, that's it. Anything else you want to add to this wonderful evening?
No, just I like going through people's videos. We should pick a video for next week. Hey, maybe people should send you recommendations or something. I don't know.
Maybe send me recommendations and we can do that. We could also review another video that is this time not about Islam alone, but about other things. Well, we could do that. We had an idea. And with other
the Ali Dawah video.
Yes.
Yeah. So have you watched it?
Only parts of it. I can't.
I haven't seen it, but I saw somewhere. I saw a video of Ali Dawah responds to the most common atheist objections. And so it's weird because, I mean, I'm technically on the same side of him. I just don't have a lot of confidence that he would give anything remotely resembling a good response. So anyway, it might be interesting to watch.
How could you say that?
And they don't want it. I mean, I'm sure I will bring this up again in various contexts, but I mean, Ali Dawah was in where was it? He gave some version of the contingency argument somewhere,
with it.
Was that with you? Was that with you?
With his debate to me, which was just a horrible
okay.
attempt at making the argument.
So yeah, so after that, Cameron Bertuzzi, actually being extremely nice, said, "Hey, I want to kind of help you here to come up with a more easily defensible version of the argument from contingency." And Muslims blaspheme, how dare you? You're Trinitarian, you can't tell us anything. We challenge you to debate, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I mean, it made it obvious, right? Because, I mean, keep in mind, I'm a theist. If a Muslim came up with a brilliant argument for the existence of God, I'd be totally in favor of it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't cross my mind, well, I'm going to insult you because you're a Muslim saying it. But it really, because Ali Dawah gave a complete garbage argument. I'm not saying that because I have a problem with the argument from contingency. I have a problem that he put it in an extremely stupid fashion. Now, in Islam, they just won't say, hey, that's a bad argument. It's conclusive proof. He's refuted you. And you've got a Christian saying, hey, I can actually help you a little bit. But notice, because the Dawah guys are so narcissistic, it's not, hey, let's come up with a good argument and let's all work together and come up with a good argument. It's just, how dare you insult us? Everything is like an insult to their intelligence and so on, and so they can't accept it. But
Ali Dawah's response to him directly on Twitter was like, "How can you pretend to be our teacher? We are your teacher," or something stupid like that.
pretty dumb.
Just a complete place of arrogance to respond. I mean, you give an example. William Lane Craig, right? So I think he, with his Kalam cosmological argument, he introduces it and says that it is in the form that he presents it and expands on it. It is largely based on an Islamic scholar's version of a cosmological argument of Ghazali, how he developed the cosmological argument, and he then takes it. So this comes from an Islamic scholar. He takes it and continues it. You could have the same humility of learning from somebody else, but no, the Dawah guys are like, no, you cannot teach us. You're not our teacher. We are your teacher, boy.
And that's actually a perfect example, because it kind of goes back and forth. Part of the Kalam cosmological argument was from I believe, 5th century heretical Christian. And then some Muslims take the point he made and then make a fuller argument for the existence of God out of it. And then, years later, someone like William Lane Craig comes along and says, hey, I can actually make this argument even stronger, but he acknowledges where it comes from. But notice there's no, hey, this is about our ego and about, about attention for us. And we're so fragile that we can't handle anyone disagreeing with us. And you get to but notice, I mean, they make progress in developing a better argument over time. But you get to the modern age and everyone, I mean, the Dawah guys are so just ridiculously fragile. They regard anything, even someone trying to help them, as an affront to their worth and dignity. That's why they can't. I mean, that's why all they want is praise. They can't handle any sort of criticism. It's fun to watch.
I imagine William Lane Craig saying, "You cannot be our teacher. We are your teacher, boy."
Isn't that funny though? Because if you were to ask David, who do you pick as defender of Christianity? It'd be William Lane Craig or Plantinga or something like. It would depend on the argument, what the argument is or something like that. But if it's philosophy, it's Plantinga. If it's something Kalam or something, then him. Stephen Meyer or somebody for like a design argument. But you go to different people and so on. You ask the Muslim, who's your defender? Well, Ali Dawah and Andrew Tate. It's like, what the heck is your religion, man? These are the guys you choose.
What is your religion?
Andrew Tate!
Yeah.
Top G. How many Bugatti? What color is William Lane Craig's Bugatti?
Yeah. What color is your Allah? Like Nark said, I don't think that argument is strong in any way. Yeah, I also don't think that the Kalam cosmological argument is a very solid argument, but of course, people like David would think it's like amazing.
We should have discussions of arguments like that. We could eventually like watch a video and then give our watch a 5-minute William Lane Craig video and then give our thoughts either way or something like that.
Yeah, that would be cool. All right,
that argument is dope.
Yeah.
All right, anyone who says otherwise is stupid. Go ahead.
Same. Yeah. Okay. So that's it. Thanks everybody. Have a fantastic day and bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye. You don't
Bye-bye.
even remember that there was a Saturday Night Live skit where the guy would just keep going, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I don't know.
People are getting off the plane. They're complaining about stuff. He's going, bye-bye.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that said, thanks for joining us again, everybody. We will see you once again next weekend, where we will then again talk about things, react to videos, present all kinds of brilliant arguments, and we will be your teacher boy. Nobody
your
can be
teacher
our
boy.
teacher. I'll be your teacher boy, and you will watch this boy. You will learn from me, boy, and you'll be humiliated, boy. And yeah. And we'll see you next weekend. Have a fantastic day. Thank you, everybody. I will try to publish a short video in the meantime over the next few days, and it will be nice. Yeah.
You've got multiple points. You've got your computer generated stuff. You've got your trolley thing. You've got it all.
Oh yeah.
The trolley one's actually very timely because
Yeah.
it's still the discussion about the Sweden thing's still going on.
Yeah. I want to pose it as like the biggest trolley problem that you have ever seen. Like the huge thumbnail, like shocked faces everywhere.
Just so you know, House of Hikmah already shared your picture on Twitter.
Come on, man. No, share it widely. Put this into, bring this into academia. I want universities to.
Islam's trolley problem.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody. Have a fantastic day, and as always, stay away from
Top G.
top
No, Islam.
Stay away from Islam.
Stay away from Bugattis.
Yeah, Bugattis. Bugattis. Stay away from Bugatti.